So, as I believe my second favourite Scottish meme goes, "Good morning, Glasgow!" Thank you. Welcome to Exterminating Liability through Spreadsheet Malware, or as more appropriately called, Death by Spreadsheet. As you may have guessed, via the spreadshirt and the display, the whole thing is being done in Excel because I'm either an idiot or I like this too much and I should have really considered a career in accountancy. So we'll figure that bit out later. So, a couple of disclaimers first. Data in the sheets was for presentation only. Nothing is fully representative of anyone I currently or have previously worked for. I'm going to try and make these sheets available later somewhere. I have a few domains. I'll put it on there at some point. And as of midnight this morning, most of the macros in this did not work, and I could not figure out why. I'm going to put that down to it's VBA, therefore no one likes it, and it's a pain in the arse. But here we are. I think I might have said this was PG, so I'll try not to swear anymore. Anyway, so the questions that most people will probably be immediately thinking, why are you doing this? Because in my experience, the first time I did anything GRC related, it was always in Excel. Therefore, I thought I might try and make something a bit more useful to other people when they get to their first time doing it. Wouldn't Vanta, ServiceNow, another GRC platform be better? Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, coming from an SME world, those things are very expensive and quite hard to figure out, so I just Excel. It's easier. And am I completely insane? Probably. I'll leave a few people in the room that know me to figure that bit out and tell everybody later. But we shall see. I hope you enjoy. Feel free to heckle at any point if it's crap. So, the first sheet that I normally go with is some form of dashboard. That spill error wasn't there before. Figure that bit out later. Anyway, so I think I can walk around. So what we have on the left, as you can see, this says audit days. This is pulled directly from 27,006. So for those in the ISO world, that tells you how long your audits are going to be. For those who aren't in the ISO world, it's a really long document that's ridiculously expensive for no reason. Just at least one person laughed at that, and I'm happy. So you can use this drop down to change how that does, and it's what it's supposed to do, whether it does or not is a different matter, is we'll change this number here, the total days of audit at the bottom, which is really helpful, I find, when you're first looking through this and trying to justify why stuff is taking so long within your organization. So just by changing these two things about business complexity, you've taken your total days of audit from 18 days to 13 and a half, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the fact that you get a whole half a week back is pretty good in my experience of doing this. It follows for the IT complexity here as well. You can change this, so the simpler your systems are, the quicker your audit will be, and because nobody likes being in long audits, that's usually nice. And you can also take it all the way down to one-man bands, which is nice. So, the stats on the right, what it's supposed to do, which it isn't for some reason, is looking through the other registers across the bottom there that you can see, regulation, legislation, standards, assets, etc. It's supposed to tell you how many of each thing you've identified, which is quite good when you're reaching out to other people across your business that may be more attuned to what those are. So if you have defined legal teams, you can say to them, we've identified these many laws, regs, and standards that we need to work with or be useful to work with throughout the life cycle of your ISMS or other security frameworks that you may want to be using as part of such tool. Also give you a rough idea of how many risks, which your board will like, because they ultimately only want to know how many things do we have in place that are going to be a problem, that may cost us money, may give us reputational damage, or may cause us to lose clients if something goes catastrophically wrong. Yes, that was the right key. So the next one I have is schedule of compliance activity, usually requested so that you can see what your internal audit cycles are. If you follow 3-year certification periods, as I've said here, you can get away with not auditing the entire system at once. What this allows you to do is really manage your time better. You can get deeper into each particular aspect that you're auditing, seen across the internal one there. So instead of doing whole system every year, which you can do, done that before, sort of worked, done it this way the second time around, and we found it a lot more efficient at the company I was at the time. So this means that your internal auditor isn't spending as long doing the work across all your different business units, and it really allows for your internal auditor to go deeper into the processes, procedures, and everything that you're doing to give you a better idea of what it is. Tests at the bottom, if you do any pen tests, business continuity, disaster recovery, you can schedule those in, auditors like to see, in my experience at least. And this allows you to show where they are, where they're going to take place, and if they are going ahead, if they're not going ahead, you can change this as and when you need to. Along with staff training, when it should happen, how often it should happen, and also your backup regime, which is quite useful on there. Next up, legislation register. So this allows you to pick legislation from every country or body that you have to work with. So if you click on the origin bit, it gives you a drop-down menu. All the drop-down menus are informed by a single sheet at the back end because they're used repeatedly throughout the entire workbook. So you can pick the various bodies that you want to take your legislation from as you want to go through it. People are now realizing this is about GRC and are getting bored. And I don't blame them. Giving it short names, descriptions, and applications. What roughly is the law? You don't have to go into full legalese because nobody can understand it. And then go into the application. Why does this specific law apply to your business? Ifs follows across for the other sheets. Regulation and standards. Broadly the same thing, but you have different origins on the standard sheet, as standard necessarily doesn't come from a country, could come from a company. The regulation sheet for me is where it gets a bit more interesting, as you can fine-tune it further towards your business. For instance, my background doing some stuff in the civil nuclear space, I don't really need to have like the nuclear industry security regs for every business that wants to use this, so you cut them out, which is quite nice. It also allows you to assign an owner for the regulation, who's going to be following this particular reg, who's going to be managing the compliance for it. So in comparison to GDPR and NISA, you split that out between your data protection and information security teams if you have them. If they're the same person, then you can put a name in there instead if you wanted. Standards are much the same. You can split them down a bit further. You can support which regulation through your standards. So why are you using that standard? Is it a client requirement? Is it because you've got a regulation you want to support because you have a vast amount of data that uses that? So 27701 for GDPR. If you are processing vast quantities of personal data, that would be quite useful there, along with your review cycles. Again, who owns that? 20,000 at the bottom, just because I was recently doing ITIL stuff. So statement of applicability is an interesting one. This is where one of the macros was supposed to exist. It has completely broken, and I cannot for the life of me figure out why. So following on from the general theme, you can pick what standard it comes from along the left here. This is all a bit manual at the minute, unfortunately. I do think there's a way to automate this that I'll be looking at later. To pull in the control codes, the names, and the description, so you can split it out a bit more, which makes it a bit more human readable, in my view. How the macro was supposed to work here is what I'll just quickly go through. So as soon as you put yes in this box, and that's where I need to slide across. There we are. As soon as you put a yes in this box, it's not, the macro is supposed to lock you to this row until you have put something in one of these 4 boxes. So why have you included the control? Is it a legal, regulatory, contractual requirement, or is it a result of risk assessment? So by implementing it, by putting a yes in one of these boxes, or a tick, or something else like that, it would then allow you to go to implemented. Have you implemented that control yet? Are you in the process of, or have you not done it? And following from that, you'll be asked for a maturity. How mature is a control? Is it brand new and untested? Is it fully implemented and it works really well across your business? However, if your included is no, what it's supposed to do, again, this is all theoretical at this point, is lock out all of those cells there so that you can't type into them. So the only thing you can type is why you have excluded the control, why you're not using it. Again, this is supposed to work across the whole thing, but macros are macros. Nobody understands VBA, and neither does AI, as it turns out. So it's currently the bane of my life. And as I've previously done these a little bit easier across, it's really annoying me as to why I can't figure it out. So the next is a more generic asset register, so not going into like the serial numbers of your devices, just we've got these, they're roughly this, and this is how many of them we have. So at start, so the type will inform the config management register, which we'll see momentarily, is generally used so you can group your assets together. Because these are all tables, I've just removed the filter keys, you can, if I can find the table key, there it is, put the filter buttons back on. So you could go into it and you can filter down by, well, we know that we're changing out all of our portable electronics at the minute, so you can go filter by that, and then you could see all the laptops, smartphones, tablets, scanners, if you work in like a warehouse and you've got barcode scanners that you give to your staff. So you can filter down by all that, so you get a tighter view on what you're looking at, which can also be useful when you're going back to business unit owners. So, for instance, if we go back to, oh, that's reassuring. The magical AV person has made it work again. There's a reason I don't work with this. So, for instance, if we take this top one here, desktop electronic, it's a CAD workstation, so it's going to be a very high-performance computer, generally used for engineering design artifacts. So, if I tag across a bit, you can see that the owner there is listed as engineering. So, if your engineering department was saying, we need to refresh all of our machines, which could be desktops, laptops, depending on your use case. Are you doing 2D, are you doing 3D, are you doing weird stuff? There's a software item in here that I'll show you in a minute. So you can go through, this is everything that your department owns. Is this still right? Are you looking to change it? What's going through? Are these numbers still correct? Also allows you to define a bit better. Publishers and deployments of them, if you look. So the software package I was talking about, Altium, something I've used previously for electronics, designing PCBs and PCAs for your machines. So little IoT devices, for instance. You can go through and add all your software onto here as well. Or if it's a cloud platform, like Sage HR, which I picked up because one I've used before that I didn't particularly like. But anyway. So as we go further across, this can also be used, as stated, my background's civil nuclear and some other stuff. So you can also go into the classifications of your assets, which is quite useful when you want to break down a bit. It's like, yes, I have 100 laptops in the estate, but you might go 80 of them are for general business use, but I've got these 20 which are for higher use case, hence the different classifications there, which you could put anything into. Be aware adding certain classifications into things does change what you can do in the first instance. Caveats, if you have them, so official sensitives, caveat, you can put that into there, which is perfectly fine. Or you can put other things into it, like does this carry personal data? Does this carry commercial data? Is this from a specific country? You could do anything like that. And then export control requirements on there. Not that I'd ever see an export control on a switch, but for instance, if you were doing things that fell under ITAR, you could say that this particular item holds ITAR material, therefore it has this export control marking on it. Which would be something there. And again, the owner tab there. I am blasting through this a bit faster than I was hoping, so. No, wrong button. There we are. So config manager, as stated off the back of it there, this is supposed to pull through all of the same data from the last one, but never mind. So you can go through, it'll assign a hardware. So in 27001, under Annex 8.9, you have to tag the configs of your hardware, network, services, and software. So the idea of the macro here, which again has broken, is it'll give it an ID depending on what it falls under. Is it a hardware item? Is it a network? Is it a service? Is it software? Gives it a tag in there, so then again, this is a table, as everything is, so you could filter it down by just your hardware items if you so desired. What the actual asset is, which pulls from the list we've just seen, so you get all the same things in there. What's the config? Is it commercial off the shelf? I have bought this, and this is what it remains to be. Is it amended? Maybe you have a default configuration that you apply to all devices irrespective of what they are, or is it a completely bespoke thing? So the CAD workstation, I've said, it's completely a bespoke build because your engineers are picky and they want very specific hardware that you can't just buy commercially, so you've got to go and build it. A version log of all of your configs, so as they change over time, you can show that by increasing your version numbers. Your config descriptions, so what sort of things have you done here? So helpful, it's empty, so we can just type into it. So we could say that it's a custom build PC with additional security, if I could type. Caveats in place, such as TPM chips and blocked. That wasn't supposed to happen. Blocked USB ports, or something like that. Oh, that drop-down hasn't worked. That's helpful. Oh well. Classification, caveat, export control pull through the previous one, and owner does the same, or it should do in this case. I love macros. So, risk assessment, a big long one that... Oh, there was something in risk description before. Shit. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to swear. Oh well. You get the gist, it's a risk assessment. So this can go on for quite some time. This is not the final form of how I want it to look. On the basis, it's a generic 5x5 register that uses under the hood, but I would like to go a bit further into the financial, reputational, data, clients, and all the other potential impacts and likelihoods that you could have. Gives it a risk score. Part of the tool was to automatically assign that, however that also failed. Who owns it, what your treatment plan is going to be in terms of, are you going to transfer the risk and go, this is owned by a third party that we don't have, so I'm going to make it their problem. Are you tolerating it and going, yeah, it's low enough, I'm happy. Treat it, make it, reduce it, or terminate it. We need to kill this somehow. So what's your treatment plan? What does it look like? Well, whatever you want goes in there. Owner, pull through from the back end. So this one is in relation to Sage. So we've said that HR is the people who own Sage. However, let's say your HR department isn't particularly IT illiterate. So someone from IT comes in and does all of the changes that they require. Is the risk open or closed? What controls have you identified in your SOA that will be used to mitigate this? And if I tab back to the SOA real quick, one of the other things that this was going to do, as in my experience, every control that you implement can be as a result of risk assessment. So one of the ideas that I haven't quite figured out how to actually implement yet, is that the macro behind this column in the table will read into your risk assessment, and unless that control appears in that column that we were just looking at, the controls used, that cell will appear red to say, you said you're using this as a result of risk assessment, you haven't actually told us where yet, as I got pulled up for that recently. So just an idea around making that a bit easier. What does that new control look like? So for that one I've said we use SSO. Don't know if that would actually work, but here we are. What your residuals are, as you'll see, what's the risk rating gone down for? So it's gone from a critical to a minor, which I think is pretty good. What's your current treatment on it? Well, we're going to tolerate that. Last review, next review, that's standard. Last thing we have on here, then we go into the horrible drop-downs menu, is Sander. So who are your sources of threat intelligence and which authorities do you have to report back up to? So for instance, authority, Information Commission's Office, every business in the country processes personal information now. So the ICO will be a regulator who look at you when GDPR goes horribly wrong, as it can do. Why do you have to report up to them? So to follow an example from before, MOD Warp would be a source of threat intel, but you only have to do stuff with them if you're in defense, and even then, even if you only process certain types of information or have certain facilities within your business. What's your reporting timeline? How quickly do you have to report into them that you have a problem? So ICO within 72 hours, I think. How often do you get threat intel from them? What type of intelligence do you get? Is it strategic? Is it operational? Is it tactical? What type of source are they? Are they like government? Are they industry standard? Are they a massive supplier or prime, Microsoft or Google, for instance, that instance? How trustworthy is information you get from them? Any government source realistically should be a 1 on that. That rating uses 1 to 6, 1 being the highest, 6 being the lowest. And how reliable is it? Follows a similar scheme, but as A to F. A being, this is really reliable, use it all the time, multiple people confirm it. F being, this is complete rubbish and you shouldn't ever trust it. But you tag them anyway because occasionally they might say something useful, in my experience. And then to tab into the drop-downs menu. So every menu you've seen is serviced by this, which gets progressively longer and is horrible to look at for any extended period. Hence why I generally try to avoid it. Pretty sure there are other sheets that I've hidden on here. So we can have a look. Oh, just the 26 sheet. So if we go back to that sheet at the start that we had, the dashboard. So all of these down here on the left for audit days on a very creatively named 27,006 stuff. These are the tables roughly brought out of the document at the back, which fuel the front end for it. It's all roughly hidden away, as this sheet shouldn't really need to be viewed by people as you're using it. And I have waffled through everything and somehow managed to explain the stuff that broke. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. Or have I just bored you all to death? Pete has a question. Pete.
Is there a mic or
Just shout, you'll be fine.
Noise carries too much anyway. So obviously you're saying you prefer doing this to buy a paid tool, but is there anything that you miss from like a paid tool versus this that you wish this could do?
Paid tool, automatic reporting. So with your reviews, it's a lot nicer when I can say, oh, this thing's coming up for a review now, and it automatically emails the person that owns it. Legal register, for instance, automatically emails whoever it is that's handling that in your legal team to say, you need to review this now. Although they should be doing that on an ongoing basis, but so that's nice with that. You can replicate it with SharePoint lists, but I figured if I said anything about using SharePoint for this room would be empty, which is fair. So that's nicer ways of doing it. Power Automate's quite nice for that, but Power Automate is also Power Automate. So, got that. Hello, yes.
Hi there. I guess the question is this a thing that are you saying you should or could use spreadsheets to do this stuff as a viable alternative to commercial tools, or are you saying this particular one that you have developed is I'm presenting it for everyone to download and use? What's the pitch?
So when I make this available to download, you can use it if you want. The reason I built it is because the two businesses that I started doing this in, one was a micro business, the other was an SME. And I really struggled to justify getting in a commercial platform for it. Hence, figuring it out in Excel. I roughly know how to use Excel after a COVID binge on ESPN2 at midday, where I found something called the Excel World Cup. It is real, look it up. It's the most depressing thing you can watch for several hours if you're bored. And because that came up and then I started doing stuff like this, it sort of jogged an idea that, hang on, this is actually a lot more powerful than I initially thought. So, and go into it, do a lot of the useful stuff, hence why I started going down the macro path, because not everything can be done with formulas, or it can, but it's a pain and you have to reference across multiple sheets, and I just couldn't be bothered. So that's why I started doing the VBA side of it. Am I saying you should use this? No, if your organization is bigger than 100 people, please go and get something better. However, if you are one of the unlucky sods that just gets told, hey, our audit's in 3 weeks, deal with it. This should be pretty useful for that sort of scenario, or if you're in a, like I said, small company, you need to deal with it. It's a start for 10. It is the reason behind it. Feel free to say it's crap. I'm not that bothered. I'm not precious. Anybody else? Stunned silence? Yes?
This is a bit of to hammer everything looks like a nail kind of thing to a software developer, but why not just write some software to that?
Because I can't write code. Very simple solution. As proven when I asked Claude to write one of the macros for me, and it completely cocked it up. It was awful. Everybody was telling me, oh yeah, Claude's great for all this. And I was like, cool, Claude, write this macro for me. Couldn't do it. Very annoying. Anybody else? Yeah?
How does this fit in with your ASR?
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. I'll get back to you on that.
Any other questions? Happy days. Run applause for Alan again.
Cool.